What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I wanted to just throw this in the beginning. Please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. That really helps our numbers. Also, check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com/merch store to get your X Drinking Buddy merch. And if you really want to, subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/BrennanTassif. That really helps me out. I'm so happy to have everybody who listens. And thank you so much. Enjoy the episode.
Grab me a beer and grab me a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and reminisce about crazy old stories. I am sober now, but it is still one of my favorite things to do, to hang out with someone and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New York City, Matt Bowman.
Hey, dude, what's going on?
What's up, brother?
Oh, I'm hanging out, dude. I love it.
Plug everything up front, because I know you have a podcast. I know you got a lot going on.
Cool.
Any shows, this will come out in 10 days. So any shows you can remember off the top of your head?
Sure. I mean, I'm at the Grizzly Pear Comedy Club most nights of the week. So that's down in Greenwich Village. Check that out. I also do a lot of shows at Three Monkeys, which is right here in Midtown.
Okay.
That's a bar show run by Sheba Mason. I do that a lot. And then my podcast is Matt Bowman is Bothered.
And
Yeah.
what is that about, Matt?
Oh, man. It's really just where I do a lot of charity work. Just really give back. No, it's really just me complaining about things, because I think that the one thing the podcasting world needed was another white guy yelling about shit.
Complaining about
Yeah,
stuff?
that's what I was like. I saw a need, and I'm like, I'm going to fill that for the people.
There's a void.
A clear void, dude. A chasm, I would say. It is vast.
I wanted to bring you on because we run into each other all the time over at the Pear,
Yeah.
and we're always hanging out. And so I wanted to bring you on, kind of get to know you, how you got into comedy, and then you do have some crazy stories that I definitely wanted to get into.
Sure.
But before we get too far into it, you've lived in New York now for how long?
Got here fall of 2019.
Okay.
So right before everything went to shit. Yeah.
And where did you come from?
I came from Columbus, Ohio, which is where I started comedy, originally from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay,
So
you're from
Midwest.
the Nasty Natty.
Yeah, baby. Flying Pigs 513.
There you go.
That's what it is.
All right. So how did have you always been into performing, or how did you get into stand, especially in Ohio? Because
Yeah.
the last few comics I've had on, like Kevin Sanchez and Joshua Pallid, and then I had Gastor on, they're all from New York.
Sure.
So like the last few comics I've had on, it's been like, well, you know, they grew up around it. They could easily find mics wherever they were. When you're in Ohio, first of all, what drove you to move to Columbus? And then once you got there, what was the trigger to get you to start doing stand-up?
So moving to Columbus, I went to a small Christian school for college.
I was going to say Ohio State, but I was like, you don't have the,
no,
the Ohio
I don't have,
State vibes.
dude. Honestly, because I've gotten less religious. I still think I am probably lean religious, but like at graduating high school, I was like, oh, if I go to Ohio State, I'm gonna get mixed in with the wrong people. I'm not gonna get focused. I want to.
Okay, so you grew up in a very religious environment.
Not like fucking like Westboro Baptist, but like fairly religious. Like we went to church every Sunday and Wednesday, that type of thing. Prayed before every meal, that type of thing. So, and my mom went to the same school that I went to, and a bunch of my friends, all of my friends growing up were at church. They weren't really at school.
Yeah, that's how you met your friends. Were at church.
Yeah. And so, like, a lot of them were going there. So I was like, okay, well, let's just go there. They had a good business program, which is what I majored in, and I'm using it incredibly well right now. Now I have a joke where I said I'm on stage, and I'm like, I have my MBA, and this is how it's going. This moment here with you.
You really do have an MBA?
Yeah, I have my MBA. Yeah, I wasted so much money.
Yeah, I've got two
but it's all right.
too, and I'm like, hey, let's wait tables and do stand-up.
Exactly, dude.
Comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, you convince yourself it's going to be like, no, this is a good fallback. It's just like, no, dude, you've been doing stand-up for 5 years. There's no fallback
It's
at this
so
point.
interesting you say that because, one, all my friends have, like, had I gotten a job right out of college, I would have been on track with all my friends.
Yeah.
But I waited because I was, the listeners know, but I was beyond getting fucked up. Like I was already full blown into my alcoholism by the time I was like halfway through college, let alone at the end of it. So I was like, I'll just wait tables and survive. And I remember thinking, like, when I met my ex-fiance,
what a sentence. That's great.
She wanted me to get a regular job because she was a teacher at the time. And I was like, all right, cool. And so now I'm like 27, 28, applying for these entry-level positions at offices.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, well, and this is in Florida. So they're like, we're going to start you off at $27,000 a year. Then you'll get a 5% raise every 3 to 5 years and da-da-da. And I was like, oh, I'm so far behind.
Yeah.
Like, I owe more than that.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. And because all my friends got these jobs when they were fresh out of college and they could get forbearances on their loans and they were living with roommates. And then they steadily, started making more and more and got promoted. So now they're 28 making like 75 a year.
Right.
And they're like, oh, we're going to start you around 30. And I'm like, oh, no. Oh, no.
Not at all.
So I just stayed waiting tables.
Yeah.
And now I'm too far in.
No, yeah. And you're like, okay, well, there's one way and it is this way. And I have to keep going forward with
If you have a plan B, you never had a plan A.
Exactly, dude. Dude, you're right. But I was very similar. Like because I've always been a personable person. Whatever. I've liked talking to people. I can do that pretty well. And so my parents were always like, "You'd be good in business. You'd be really good at sales."
Business, yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
A buddy of mine that was 2 years older than me in college, he graduated and got a sales job doing inside ticket sales for the Miami Dolphins. So he was down in Miami, and I hit him up and I was like, "Hey, is there any chance that you guys are like interviewing or like looking for stuff?" He's like, "Not really right now, but I'll let you know." And then like the spring semester of my senior year of college, he was like, "Hey, we've got some openings. I'm going to try to get you an interview." Get me an interview. They fly me down to Miami. I interview for the Dolphins. I go through 2 rounds of interviews there. I'm feeling really good.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Okay, we'll let you know by like the end of next week or whatever." Heard nothing from them. So like I'm convinced that if they had given me that job, I would not be here right now. Not at all. Yeah. Not at all. Because I've always liked to make people, this is a very roundabout way to answer your original question. I've always liked making people laugh. I've joked that it's like the only thing that I've ever really been good at is doing that. Or like,
say that too.
I think Burr has a thing where he was just like, when he was thinking about doing comedy, he was like, I never knew that it was really a job. I just thought that I would be the funny guy at whatever job I did. Like if it
working
was
in the warehouse,
contractor, warehouse, sale, whatever, I'd be the funny guy.
It's interesting you say that because I was introduced to comedy at a pretty young age, and I thought the same thing because I would watch Tom Roach and Mitch Hedberg and Greg Giraldo, and I'd be like, these guys are hilarious, but like, I can't do that.
You didn't know that you could just do it.
And I say it all the time. And then when I saw Dane Cook's Comedy Central Presents, I was like, oh, I want to do that. Like I can do that. Like the crazy rip the shirt off, throw the wall. I was like, that's me. That's what I do. I do shit like that.
Yeah, I think everybody has like their person that they saw and they were like, oh, okay. Yeah. Now this is accessible.
Who was it for you?
The first guy that I saw, the first 3, it's such a weird like triumvirate of people that I was introduced to. The first guy was Seinfeld.
Okay.
Which we watched. He has a bit about Halloween, and growing up, my parents and our like family best friends, they all liked Seinfeld a lot. And so every Halloween we would go trick-or-treating, and then we would come back and watch his special, I'm Telling You for the Last Time.
Okay.
Where he has the Halloween bit.
Yeah.
And that was like the first memory I have of watching stand-up.
You're the second person, believe it or not.
Really?
100-something episodes. You're the second person who grew up in a religious background and was first introduced to Seinfeld.
Yeah. Of course, dude. And
given you're only the second person that grew up in a religious background, but both had something in common.
Absolutely.
Luke Thayer and you.
Well, that's funny is that like when people, this is very quick aside, but like when you're trying to sell tickets for shows and people are like, who's on the show? I hate that question because they're literally looking for 4 people.
Yeah. Like
I could say anybody that's really good, and unless I say like Seinfeld, Kevin Hart, or Don Rickles, like they're not gonna know who it is.
At my restaurant job, because sometimes I'll steer the conversation if I have a show coming up to like, oh, I just moved to New York, and they're like, oh, what brought you to New York? And I say comedy, and I've done the bits on stage where it falls flat and I embarrass myself. But I do that with, I see hundreds of people a day. So I'm always pushing, the podcast and the shows and stuff. And there's so often where people go, I love comedy. Who's your favorite comic? And I go, well, right now, I would probably have to say Bill Burr. And they go, I don't know him. Oh. And I'm like, then you don't love comedy. Yeah.
Dude.
You can't say, I love comedy. Who's your favorite? Bill Burr. Oh, you don't know. What about Tom Segura? No. He just bought a $6 million house in Austin. He's pretty well known.
It's crazy how stand-up has never been more popular. Yeah. The medium of stand-up comedy, it's to the point that it feels bloated. Like it feels like there's too much. Yeah. But it's still so niche. I overheard two girls down in Greenwich Village, two girls having a conversation where one of them said verbatim, Dave Chappelle is black, right? Holy shit, dude. How big do you need to be?
Biggest
Nobody's
comic
bigger than him.
alive. Yeah.
Nobody's bigger than him.
Biggest comic probably ever.
Maybe ever.
Yeah.
And people are like, he's African American, right? I'm like, what are you talking about, dude?
It's crazy too because last aside, I'll go to the cellar because I hang out at the stand a lot because it's right around the corner from my work, and that's where I've got to meet like a lot of people. I had a lot of guests on the show from there and stuff, so I hang out there a lot. But every once in a while, I'll be like, I need to go down to the cellar just to like go grab food or hang out with some of the comics that I do know down there. And it's so funny because it is so niche. People will see me at the cellar and I'll be wearing like my merch or I'll just have like a backpack on and they think they look and everybody does like a double and triple take. Like, is that someone we should know? Is that? Right. And I love playing that up.
Yeah.
Like certain comics will walk by that I've met like maybe once, but I'll act like we're best friends. So then they see me with a comic they just saw on stage and they're like, that's gotta be a guy.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing.
Dude, have you ever had like friends that like maybe aren't that into comedy and they like visit you in the city and you like see like a very important guy but that isn't like huge, I don't know, like Colin Quinn.
Yeah.
Like I was with buddies and I was like, holy shit, dude, that's fucking Colin Quinn. And they're like, who? And I'm like, oh, that's right. Okay. So you don't get
it makes me so mad because sometimes my girlfriend will have her friends come into town and through some of the people I've met and people I've kind of like befriended and stuff, like if they want to go see comedy, I've got I know enough people to where I can just text someone and be like, hey, can we come to the show tonight? And they'll be like, yeah, tickets will be waiting for you.
Sure.
And that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to the growing up around people in sales and business where we know how to talk to people. So many of these young open micers I meet and they're like, how did you like meet Hannah Berner and get on her TikTok? I go, I don't know. We were talking at the stand one night and she was a Division I athlete and so was I and we hit it off and we just are friends now.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, really? Or like sometimes they'll come in to the stand and they'll see me and they'll be like, hey man, what's up? And they'll sit down next to me just like this the whole time on their phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not how you meet people.
You're not hanging.
Yeah.
I'm going to go hang at a show. Most people mean I'm going to go sit in the corner of the show.
On my phone.
And it's just like, okay, well, you're not going to meet anybody.
Yeah, because it's so often people, like the younger people who are out, like not really in the know, they're like, how did you've only been here for a year. Like, how do you know this person and that person? I don't know. I just talk to people.
Yeah,
and I genuinely love comedy and they can see that.
Yeah,
and we've
be
all
a nice guy.
Yeah, we've all been through similar experiences.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's just so crazy because we'll go to shows and afterwards, like if it's Mike Rowland or Caitlin Palufo or Steven Rogers, like I'll be talking to people. All of those guys and girls have been on the show, all friends of mine. I'll be talking to them after. And they were just on the lineup.
Yeah.
And then like my girlfriend will come outside with her friends and they go, oh, are you a comic too? I'm like, you just saw them.
Dude, and that's how, oh man, it's insane to me that before the internet, anybody was able to have a career.
It's
because
nuts.
have you ever had it where you get off stage and somebody comes up to you and is like, oh my God, I love that joke. And you're like, oh, thank you so much. Which one was it, by the way? And they say somebody else's bit.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, so you don't even fucking know who you're talking to.
Yeah. That's why I'm hell bent. And we were talking about this before we went hot on the mics, but I am hell bent on having something to say and then trying to make it funny.
Sure.
Because it's like, whether you laugh or not, you're going to remember the fucking story about me cutting my own face open to prove a point in a fight. Like, I think I've made it very funny, but if you don't laugh because you're like, oh, that's scary or that's intense, that's on you. But you're still going to remember you're the guy who cut his own face open.
Yeah. And I think I like that more. I guess the point that I was making was more about like, I feel like a lot of times people are like, I'm just going to go up and say my political opinion and people are going to enjoy that and then I'm going to leave without saying any jokes.
Yeah.
So I'm more like, if you want to have a political leaning, that's totally fine. But for me, I would prefer it to be funny first and then you attach your belief or your smart or whatever.
Absolutely.
That was the only point.
Yeah, because we were going back and forth because I've always, and the listeners know, I'm incredibly pretentious when it comes to comedy. That's why sometimes I have to like stop going to the mics for like a week at a time because I've only been in New York for a year and I don't get enough stage time as I need to keep developing. So I do go to the mics a lot. And my whole rule with mics is I only go if I have something new to work on, which ipso facto forces me to constantly be working on new stuff because I want to go to the mics and hang out and see everybody. But it's weird because my whole thing is like, like we were talking about before, like I study Lenny Bruce. I'm a big fan of that kind of style where it's like it's our jobs as comics using our platform to challenge the status quo. Like that's what we're supposed to do in a funny way, in a lighthearted way. But it's basically my whole thing is to shine a light on really dark situations, situations I've been in firsthand. And I know sometimes that's not for everybody, and I totally get that. It's not a broad thing.
Yeah.
But this goes back to what we were talking about with the internet. Because of the internet, Kyle Kinane says it, and I repeat it all the time, but I don't need everyone.
True.
I just need enough to fill a room.
Yeah, I heard.
That's it.
I heard, do you know Jamie Wolf?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard a clip of him. He said something where he was like, if you want to make a career out of this, all you need is 10,000 people to like you.
Yeah.
You get 10,000 people. I mean, yeah, you're not going to be a mate. You're not going to be super famous. But you will make a living at stand-up comedy if you can get just 10,000 people to like you, and that's about it.
And I tell people all the time, they go, "Well, what do you think? You're going to be like rich and famous?" I go, "I don't want to be.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to make people laugh at some of the like horrific shit that addicts and alcoholics and people down on their luck and people with mental health issues go through on a daily basis. I want to be able to flip that on its head and make people laugh at that.
Sure.
stuff.
Well, and I think that there's like, when it comes to I have 2 points. First one was talking about like random different topics or like things that are inappropriate or taboo or whatever. Colin Quinn had a thing where he said he was just like somebody told him, he's like, oh, well, you shouldn't say that, and he's like, oh yeah, that's why I got into comedy, to march in lockstep with society's norms. It's like, no, I'm a fucking degenerate, dude. I'm going to talk about whatever I want, and that's the freedom of this. And I don't remember my second point.
Well,
but
if
that
you
was,
think of it,
if I think of it, I'll come back.
You're going to be like, hey,
well, we got a big point.
So you go to Columbus to go to college.
Yep.
And then how did you get into stand-up?
So I did sketch.
You said Seinfeld was the first one. There's two others.
Seinfeld, and then the first guy I saw live was Regan.
Okay.
Which I feel like I hear a lot of other people say this. I don't think he gets nearly as much credit.
Absolutely.
He's been touring theaters for 30 years. Just doing
big party animal too.
Rushing it, dude. Walking around. He's the band, dude. I love that guy. And then the last one was Tosh.
Okay.
Tosh was, I think, and that was like for, I don't know, how old are you?
34.
Okay, I'm 29. So I feel like people my age, and maybe a little bit of yours as well, like, I feel like people, maybe you and people older than me, it was Dane Cook.
Yeah.
And then for people my age, it was like
Tosh. Yeah, absolutely.
His hours came out, and then he got Tosh.0, and then it was all of that. And I was like, oh man, because the other two guys...
Yeah, you're actually right. Now that I'm thinking about it, everyone in high school, when I was in high school, this is because Dane was the first comic to put his stuff out on Napster.
Yeah.
He'd reply, and I told this last week or the week before. Dane to this day still replies to everybody on. So I remember, just real quick, I got into comedy and I messaged Dane on like Facebook or in MySpace back then because this was 2009. Messaged me back. Good job. Keep doing it. Things happen, go to rehab, go to jail. Like I get totally fucked up. Come out of rehab in 2013, message him. Hey man, just got out of rehab. Like I'm going to get back on the horse. And he doesn't remember me or know who I am, but I'm like still communicating with him.
Sure.
He's like, great man. Glad you stopped drinking. You know, just keep working at it. Yada, yada, yada. Fucking fall off the wagon. Come back in 2021. Message him like, hey man, going to move to New York. My point is, still to this day, always replies.
Damn.
That's awesome, dude. Keep working at it. Like, hopefully we'll cross paths in New York, yada, yada. And I'm like, this is insane, but that's how he made his career. And that's for people my age. Now, fast forward, 5-6 more years, Tosh comes out. And this was the first time anyone had seen anything like this. Like, he's attacking everybody.
Yeah. Well, or like people my age had seen stuff like that. I mean, because older guys, like Kinnison, or, you want to talk about punching down. That guy was making fun of fucking people that starving in Africa. Like, that was whatever.
I guess what I'm saying is for that generation, it was
100%. Because I remember being in elementary school and hearing about Dane Cook, but still being a little bit religious and not really doing it. Like, I didn't really know that. But then, like, when we got cable later on, Comedy Central, you see Tosh, and you're like, oh my God, who is this guy? Yeah. That's pretty cool.
You got him because you're a whore. You forgot because you're stupid.
Beer in a can.
I love fake titties.
He's the man, dude. But yeah, got it. So those were the three guys that like kind of was the introduction into comedy for me, and then did sketch in college. But then even then, like, I graduated college in 2016, and I remember getting done doing sketch in college and kind of being like, well, that's the last time I'm ever going to be on a stage performing for people. Because even then, I didn't know that you could just go do it.
An open mic, yeah.
And then, like, I was just...
Are you listening to podcasts and stuff at this point?
Yeah. kind of, but not.
Because that opened the door for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
They heard these veteran comics talking about, like, you go to open mics, you grind it out. Then we had this influx of kids at open mic, or people at open mics, and you're like, yeah, you're not going to be Rogan. Like, you're not going to be Segura. Like, you're not going to be...
And if you are, it's not going to be nearly as quick as you think
it's going to take 10, 15... That's always crazy to me when people are like, they're an overnight success. It's like, I've been a fan of theirs for 15 years.
Yeah,
like,
what are you talking about? There's literally, there's very rare instances, but I think Bargatze's quote was like, you either make it at 20 or 40. Where he's like, you're either going to hit right away, like an Eddie Murphy or like a Mulaney or somebody who's just like, you're it and you've got it, boom, bam. Or you're going to be like a Louis or a Burr, where you're going to crush it and you're going to be a comedian's... People that are in the know that you're really good, but you're not going to pop until later, type of a thing.
I like that because that gives me some hope.
You need it, dude.
Yeah,
you gotta keep the self delusion somehow.
There's so many times you go to a show and it's like all these kids in their like early 20s, and some of them are really good, and then some of them they're doing hack garbage, but everyone's laughing because it's hack garbage. Yeah, and I'm like, I think this might have passed me by. Yeah, like I think I'm aged out.
Yeah, and then you're on the train and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? I can't. I don't have anything. Yeah. I have my MBA. What am I doing?
What's with this lapse in job history? Yeah. Mr. Bowman? Well, you see, funny story.
Yeah, you ever heard of the Grizzly Pear? I know I'm in Detroit right now, but it's a great club. No, it is a good. I love going there. But yeah, so those three guys, and then
you get done with college. You're done with sketch.
Yeah, and so then I just started watching like comedy specials because I graduated, and while I was the way I got my MBA was I was a graduate assistant.
Okay.
So I didn't really, but I wasn't working like a full-time thing. So I kind of like worked in the cafeteria and then did some grad assistant work. So I still had a lot of free time, and I still lived in the small town of Mount Vernon where I went to college.
I know Mount Vernon.
So there wasn't a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Wasn't a lot of stuff doing there. So I was just kind of watching comedy specials. And then I was like, okay, maybe I could try to do this. And so I just Googled like comedy open mics Columbus, which is like an hour. I would live like an hour north of Columbus.
Yeah.
And so there was one. I didn't want to drive down every night because I didn't have any money and I couldn't use all that gas. But I was like, okay, I'm going to start going one night a week. One night a week, I'm going to go down there. And the first night that I actually did comedy, I had thought about going for a while. And then I pussied out every single time.
That happens.
And then, but the way that I did it, I was like, okay, I'm going to make plans with two friends to meet.
Accountability.
We're going to meet at this bar where there's an open mic, and I'm going to do it. So now I can't not go because then I'd be canceling. And so I force myself to do it. And I sign up on the list. There's like 30 fucking people on the list. I'm like 29th. And I'm like, fucking perfect. That's great. I might even watch half of it.
Get a feel for the room.
Exactly. I might want, and we're doing 5 minutes also. Like this isn't a 3-minute mic, it's a 5-minute mic. So I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna be here for 2 hours. I'm just gonna watch everything. It's gonna be great. I didn't know they shuffled the list.
Oh.
So, yeah. So I sign up and I'm just sitting there in the audience with my two friends, totally expecting it to be like 29th. I'm gonna be on in 2 hours, and then. The guy who's hosting, great guy, his name's Doug, very gay. He gets up there, he's like, well, this is a name I've never heard before, so let's put our hands together for Matt Bowman. And I was like, oh my God, and then like ran on stage.
Oh, so you committed.
I had to do it, but it was ultimately the best thing for me because I think if I had waited around, I might have left.
Yeah.
But the fact that I just went up like 8th, and it was great. I didn't.
How did the set go?
Not bad. Wasn't awesome. Got a couple laughs. What's annoying?
Did you pull the this is my first time ever doing stand-up out?
Oh, I
probably
did.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like I hear guys talk about like, oh, what was the first joke that you said on set, or what was the first? I legitimately can't remember. Like I
remember mine and it was horrific.
Ooh, what was it? Have you said it before?
I think I've said it on this. The first joke I ever wrote. This is when I was like drunk all the time and I got done playing football and I wasn't a bro-y guy because I was raised by women. So I was very not bro-y, but I was like, that's what people want to hear is the ex-athlete talk like locker room bro-y. So my first joke, one of the first jokes I ever wrote was, it'd be a really sad day if my girlfriend ever got raped, but that is considered cheating, so we'd have to break up. And it was terrible.
I'm not going to lie. I don't not like that.
I mean, the structure.
Yeah. But yeah,
the misdirect the structure. But
I don't remember exactly what it. But I remember that it went well.
Yeah.
Well enough that I was like, okay, I can kind of do this. So yeah, I just kept going back every Monday night. And
that was your mic that you started going.
That was the mic it was the Shrunken Head in Columbus, Ohio.
Shouts out Shrunken Head,
dude. Bar just closed. Yeah, it really bummed me out. Like, I'm still on the Columbus Comics Facebook page, and they were like, "Hey, Shrunken Head's closing. We're gonna have like one more thing."
Are you flying back for that, or is it already?
It already happened. I wasn't able to go back.
Imagine if you show up.
Yeah, I'm out front just by myself. Yeah, you guys don't remember what this place used to be.
Do you go? So your family, are they still in Cincinnati?
Yeah, so suburb of Cincinnati, Westchester, Ohio.
Okay.
So they're all still there. My brother and sister both moved home because they're doing like doing some like after graduation school stuff, and they're working on like getting jobs and stuff. But yeah, my family's lived there.
So
our whole
you
life.
do that. What prompts you to move to New York? You're doing comedy once a week, and then you just decide.
So I'm doing comedy once a week, and then that went on for about 3 or 4 months, and then I got done with my graduate assistant program and got my MBA.
Yeah.
So then I got a couple friends, and we moved to Columbus.
Okay.
And so then I didn't have a girlfriend, I didn't have anything.
So you were just
doing it every night.
And what job are you working at this point?
Marketing.
Okay.
So I was using
you're
my degree.
still doing a job, yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm doing, and Columbus is a great scene. It's not super big, but it's a great place to start.
Yeah.
So we had at least one mic every night, bar shows, things like that. So I would do a mic every night, or 2 if they were available. Which honestly, that kind of pissed me off. Is there were a couple nights where there were 2 mics, and everybody would go to the first one, and then nobody would like go to the second one. I'm like, what are you doing?
You got to go to both.
Do you guys not want to do this?
Yeah.
And like, it would make me mad, and it still kind of does. But I guess I've been trying to let go of some anger.
I had a friend on the spot, like the 5th or 6th episode of this podcast. I think it was the 10th. My buddy Stephen Baker, very funny comic from Jacksonville. Because I used to get so angry when people would get on stage and like, I'm wasted. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. Then get the fuck off the stage.
Yeah.
Like, you're wasting all of our time.
100%.
This is important to some of us. And Stephen told me, he goes, Brennan, it's a lot like karaoke. There are some people who go and take it real seriously, and they're musicians, and this is their opportunity to get used to singing in front of crowds and get used to singing on key and stuff like that. And for other people, they like to go get wasted and just make an ass of themselves in front of their friends. He goes, it's the same thing.
Right.
And that's when it kind of hit me, because when I go do karaoke, I like make a big spectacle.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess it's just like a hobby thing for some people.
And if that's where your friends are, and you kind of want to just go, have a couple drinks, say some jokes, and that's what you want to do in your free time, that's great.
In the moment, though, I get so angry.
I'm so, especially at like because the Shrunken Head was the best mic.
Yeah.
It was the best mic, and there was actual audience.
Yeah. I
Like,
say that all the time. In Jacksonville, there was
10,
actual
20 people
audience. Yep.
for an open mic. It was, especially if you go up in like the first 10, people are there. And so like, it would especially piss me off when like I sign up and I'm trying to take this seriously, and then I get like sometimes he would rig it a little bit, but a lot of times he was very fair and just like would put people all over. So if I was like buried like in the list and there was a bunch of fucking jerk offs earlier in the show,
everyone would get walked.
Yeah.
So by the time you get up there, it's like 6
okay,
comics.
so get out of my way. That's where I would be like, dude, I'm trying to work on this. Get out of my way.
That still happens now.
Sure.
Sometimes at mics here. And we're in New York. Like, people paid a lot of money to like uproot their lives and move here for comedy. And I think sometimes what happens is people get here and they realize it's a lot harder. Billy Hockman said it once on the show. He goes, it's like playing on all Madden mode.
Oh,
like, you think like, oh yeah, we're going to just do it. And then you do it and you're like, this isn't fun.
No.
Like, this isn't fun. I'm getting beat 32-0. Like, I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that happens to some people, but they still go to mics and like, that's what muscle memory. That's what they think they're supposed to do.
Sure.
And sometimes I'll get like, there's certain mics where they don't even draw names out of a hat. They just do it randomly. And I'll get buried and I'm like, you see like 4 or 5 people go and you're like, all right, man, like, you know who the real people are in this room.
Sure.
And you know who like the people are that we see every once in a while. Like, let's fix this list up a little bit.
And I am another thing, because I'm also very pretentious when it comes to comedy, and I can definitely be quite a bit of an asshole about it, for sure. My girlfriend talks to me about it.
Mine too.
Yeah. She's like, you need to stop. I'm
She
like,
goes,
all right.
why don't you say this? I go, because it's hack.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. And then I'll say it on stage and it gets a big laugh and I go, I hate myself.
Oh, dude, have you ever had it where you run a joke by your girlfriend and she's like, that's not funny, and you're like, fuck you don't know anything, and then you try it, and then
all of my material.
And then the audience is like, that's not funny at all. And you're like, God damn it.
There's sometimes where, like I said, she'll be like, why don't you say this line instead? This is funny. Or why don't you talk about this? And I'm like, no, that's hack garbage. Yeah. And then I get on stage and I'll be bombing and I'll be like, let me just throw this in. And I do, and it gets a big laugh and I go, fucking hate hack garbage.
I don't know anything. But something I am trying to be better at is, and because I'm fucking nobody.
Yeah.
I've got 1,500 followers on it.
We take
I'm
it
nobody.
so seriously, but in the grand scheme,
I'm
we're
nobody. But like, I do know, like, because you have to walk the line between like the delusion that you're the fucking man and like the humbleness of just like, okay, I'm nobody. I don't know how to do this. I need to get better type of a thing. You got to walk that line. And so the thing that I'm trying to get better at is like being more generous with people that are on stage and sucking.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, fucking, I suck.
Yeah.
Most of the time. And I really used to suck.
That's true.
So it's just like, okay, maybe this guy is only 6 weeks in, and who was good 6 weeks in?
Yeah.
Let's gotta be. Now, am I gonna not lean over to my buddy and be like,
You're
this guy
like,
fucking
fucking
sucks?
sucks.
Yeah, of course I am. But I'm trying to not hold that against people as much.
I've actually been big on that too, where because I've been in and around comedy, like I did my first open mic in 2009.
Wow.
So like I've been doing it on and off for a while. And I always say on and off because there were, spaces of a year, 2 years. My longest time off was 3 years where I was just drunk every day and
Sure.
like it was a mess and I was in jail. And so like I had taken time off. So I haven't been doing it steady for 12 years, but I have been in and around it for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to me because I'll be at a mic and it means a lot to me when other comics do it and other people doing comedy do it. But like I'll have some of these younger people come up to me and they go, hey man, I was thinking about doing it this way. Like, what do you think? Or like they'll do a bit on stage and I'll like laugh from the crowd because I laugh a lot and I'll laugh from the audience and be like, you went for it.
Yeah.
And they'll get off and they'll be like, yeah, you saw I went for it. You saw I tried it.
Yeah.
And to me, that brings me a lot of, I'm like, oh, I'm like the old wily vet. Sure. But then I'll go to the stand and I'm like, oh, I'm fucking nobody.
That's one thing that I do love about the stand is that it feels to me that it's more accessible than like the cellar.
It's way more accessible.
You can go stand in the hallway unless it's super busy and then I get out of the way.
Yeah.
But like the other night I went over and hung out and I was like, okay, I'm just going to stay here for like 15 minutes. And then I looked at the lineup and it was like to close out the show, it was List, Soder, Normand, Shane Gillis.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, that's my next hour and a half. I'm just going to sit and you just watch guys murder.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing. You get on the train to go home and you're like, well, I should quit, right?
Yeah.
That's the only option.
At the 10-year anniversary, I went to that because, I knew, obviously, like I said, I knew a couple of people there. And so they put me on the list to do the thing. And so I show up with my buddy Matt Fulcher on and we're sitting there and it's so loud and it's like kind of annoying. And at one point because, he's older than me, so we're kind of like, is this really? And he's done it. He's been doing the thing for 20 years. He, opens for Segura, used to open for Tosh on the tours that you guys probably saw him on.
Sure.
And so he was like, well, I don't want to get out of here because this is like, we're supposed to be here. This is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to hang. Mm-hmm. So we went downstairs to watch the show. About an hour into it, he leaves, and I'm like, well, I'm going to go back down. So I walk down, and Shane's there. Uh-huh. And so I start fucking around with Shane because Marshall, a team that used to be in my alma mater's conference, just beat Notre Dame, Florida Atlantic University.
Oh, okay.
Oh, go Owls.
Yeah.
So I went up to him and just fucking with him. I go, hey, man, how about your boys? He's like, I don't want to talk about it. And I was like, hey, man, don't worry about it. FAU, we used to get beat by Marshall all the time, too. Like, don't. I mean, he's a Notre Dame fan. So it's like I'm really fucking with him. Like, comparing my small Division I school to his, multiple national championship school. I'm like, don't even worry about it, man. He's like, what the fuck are you even talking about, man? And so we're just like joking back and forth. And the point I'm making is like in my head, I'm like, oh, like we're both comics. He's obviously much bigger than me, but he talks about it all the time. Before he got canceled, like no one knew, like he was in our position.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm connecting with someone that I look up to in comedy. And we have similar styles in the sense that we like to storytell and stuff. Then he gets on, he's like, oh, I'm going to go up there. And I was like, all right, cool, man. I'll see you later. And he goes up on stage and just annihilates. And I same thing. I go, oh, we're not the same.
No.
Like, he's so much better than me.
Yeah. And then the thing that always in that
moment though, I'm like, we're just buddies talking football. Then he goes up in a night and I'm like, oh no.
God damn it. Yeah. Oh, I got to throw out everything.
I'm going to vomit.
The thing that does save me in that moment is that, like, when I watch one of those guys go up and they are just absolutely murdering. Because, like, even Shane, like, yes, Shane's not been in it as long as some of the other guys, like Normand or Liz has been doing it for 20 years. But he'll go up and like, just crush. I'm like, okay, that he is crushing, but he's also been doing it for, like, 10 years. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay, there is a timing thing. Like, put the time, you're going to get better.
Well, and there are certain times where I'll go on to a show. Like I did the Goon to a Goblin Max Fine show in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do my shit. Because this is a book show. I can do what I want to do.
Sure.
And I've been working on sillier stuff through, no fault of my own, other comics that are like, hey man, you're really funny off stage when you're being silly. Like, why don't you bring that on stage? I'm like, that's not what we're doing. But I've been working on it, trying to get better at it. Because that's a flaw that I have. So they call me up and I get on stage and I'm like, I'm going to fucking talk about suicide and addiction and my jokes about that stuff. And as soon as I look out to the crowd, it's all these hot Brooklyn people. And I'm like, so I like really dumb movies.
Yeah.
And I go into that bit and it gets a big laugh. And it's like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for a decade. Like, I know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm put in a position, I can like turn it on and be like, all right, let's do the material I don't really love, but I'll play it up and you guys will like it because it's silly material for every person. And so it's interesting because like sometimes I'll be at shows and people will just bomb and it's like they're not getting off of the hill.
Yeah.
Like they're doing this material. And it can go either way. You can be like, oh, that's, I'm proud of them for being like, no, this is what I want to fucking do. But you can also be like, hey, people paid for tickets for this, man. Like, let's give them a show.
Yeah.
So it's weird because, like you said, it just comes with time. Like, because I've been doing it for so long, it's like, oh yeah, like I can do it. Like I can go to open mics and like, crush if I want to.
Yeah, but that's not what that's for.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to sound like, oh yeah, I could just destroy it. Like if it's an open mic where it's a lot of people who haven't heard my actual tight five.
Sure, and you're like, oh, these are people.
Laugh.
These are people that I would like them to think that I'm good at comedy. Yeah,
they will laugh.
But if you're doing a 3:00 whatever mic bullshit thing, I'm gonna do new stuff because that's what the point of this is.
That's what we're all doing. So I want to talk to you about kind of how you got into, because some of these stories you sent me are pretty intense. And you said you came up in a religious background.
Sure.
You went to a Christian college, right?
Yep. 4 years. Mount Vernon Nazarene University, baby. Cougs.
So we'll go back and talk about the stolen iPod thing. But first, when did you start drinking?
21.
So
my birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't. Well, no, okay, that's not true. The first drink I ever had was a Bud Light at a concert in Nashville, spring break of my senior year.
And you were 20.
So yeah, that's it. And the only reason I was able to do it was because when they were checking ID, the guy was checking IDs. It clearly says under 21 on my ID. Like it says under 21 until fucking my birthday. I don't know why I just got like, don't tell him your birthday. Like I don't know why.
I saw you catch yourself until
my birthday. Yeah, it doesn't matter. June 1st, if anybody's curious.
Shouts out.
Yeah.
Gemini gang.
Let's go. But he checks it and he like looks at it for a while and he like looks at it and it was to the point that I was like, is he not going to fucking let me in? Like, it's not like a 21 plus, it's like 18 plus to get in. And then he like, because you put the X's if you can't drink, he just hands me my ID back and stamps my hand. And I was like, fucking hey, dude. All right. And then my friend Josh, who's 20 but looks like he's 45. Like he's like got a little extra weight on him, fucking a beard, everything. And he gets it next immediately. Like looks at his ID within 10 seconds. He's like, doom. And I'm like, okay. Well, and so I just go and I like go up to the bar and I'm like, can I have a Bud Light, please? And the guy's like, yeah, why are you being fucking weird, dude? Like,
stop being a fucking nerd.
Yeah,
man.
And I was just like, dude, don't fuck. You have it. It's fine. Nobody's gonna say anything. I was such an idiot. Like, I tried to, because it was the first drink I ever had. It was one of those like, those they're like the weird shaped bottles where they got the real skinny neck. They're long and skinny. They're kind of like a matte finish on the outside of it, that type of thing. It was one of those. So I just tried to take it with me as like a fucking souvenir. And like the bouncer was like, dude, you can't bring that out of here. Like you can't just bring an open.
Put it in the trash.
Yeah, throw it. I was like, all right, fine. I was like, no, this is a big moment in my life. Like,
did you drink it or?
I did. Yeah, I drank the whole thing.
Were you like hammered?
No, it just didn't taste how I wanted it to.
Yeah.
But I did it. And then the next time I had a drink was like 3 months later at my birthday.
So did you go crazy or?
No, I've never had like a problem with alcohol. Like I don't have.
Well, not even just from a problem standpoint, but were you like, I'm 21, woo, like doing shots
That night, I went with my two best friends. They're now married. Christina and Isaac.
Thought that was going a different way.
Yeah. We fucked. No.
No, I thought you were going to be like my two best friends. They're now married, Josh and John.
Oh, no, they're not gay. I wanted to clear that up. No. Well, we go there and like they buy, obviously it's my birthday, they buy everything. So we just got like a flight just to try a bunch of different stuff. Because again, I'd only had a Bud Light and I tried all of it. The one I liked the most was Blue Moon, which to this day is one of my favorite beers. Got that. And then, yeah, we took some shots and I wasn't like fucked up, but I was definitely...
So were you the 21 thing? Was that because just the background?
Yeah, definitely like a religious thing.
Because people always think, and I think I heard... Because I was listening to Rogan when he has comics on, because I just like to hang. And I think he was talking about this with Greg Fitzsimmons or somebody about how, like, it's crazy to think that people don't drink until they're 21.
Yeah.
And literally, I was just listening to this, and they're like, yeah, well, that's got to be, like just your upbringing.
Yeah,
like, I grew up in a heavy drinking family, so, like, my siblings were partying in high school. And I was like, that's nuts.
This is how religious my household was. I had to... So I tried to be very respectful of, like, I never would drink, like, in my parents' house.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that.
Even after 21.
Yes, because it's just like their house, their rules. I get that. That's 100% cool. I'm fine with that.
If you were in my house, they'd be like, fucking nerd.
Yeah, you pussy. What are you doing?
What do they do now?
Yeah.
You're not going to drink. You're not going to have one drink? No, I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm an alcoholic. Thanks.
It's like you can see your kids this Thursday, right? Like that's just that.
My twin sister at my sister's wedding. I love her to death. Shout out Hannah. But my twin sister goes, we're all going out after this. And Savannah, my girlfriend, drinks.
Uh-huh.
And she had some drinks. So I was like, we have to get up early for our flight. Like, we're probably just going to go back to the room. My twin sister, little buzz, goes, it's called bonding, Brennan. We're supposed to bond. And I was like, yeah, we're definitely going back.
Yeah, we're not going out now. But I had to explain to my dad what being drunk was like.
Oh, he had never been drunk?
Never. I don't think he's ever had a sip of alcohol, ever. So, like,
good on him,
he didn't know that you didn't just get fucked up off of a beer. Like, he didn't know, like, he was like...
It takes a lot.
He was like, well, how do you know? I was like, I don't know, dude. You fucking just feel it.
That's
like,
the
it's
best
just kind
part.
of what...
You
yeah.
just don't know.
You never stop. So that, like...
It'll sneak up on you.
And he's 50 at that time, you know? Like, so that was kind of the relationship that I had with that. But, like, no, I never got really fucked up.
Have you since college and everything? Have you gotten really fucked up?
Sure, of course, but it's always a treat. Yeah. I've never even when I was in college or like in grad school or whatever, I had friends that went to OSU, and so I would go down there like once or twice a month.
OSU.
Absolutely, capital T. And I would go down there as just like, oh, this is a little fun treat on a Friday night. We're gonna go get fucked up. We're gonna do whatever. But I could never, like, the idea, like, my girlfriend Sam, she went to Ohio University, which is notorious party school.
It's a party school, yeah,
big time.
It's the little brother of
and just
Ohio
like
State.
Listening to the stories that she would have of just like, or just the timeline of just like, we would go to this bar on Tuesday and get really fucked up, and then this bar had schooners that you could get really. I'm just like, that always just sounded exhausting,
dude.
To me,
that was. I would towards the end of my I still have alcoholism, but towards the end of my drinking, I would wake up and do, like, I would have multiple shot glasses for just me.
Yeah.
Because I would pound shots so quickly that I wanted to have like 2 or 3 lined up.
This is at a bar or by yourself?
No, by myself at home.
Oh, and at no point you were like, oh, this is
No. I had already been to rehab.
Okay,
and stuff.
okay.
I'd been to rehab, fallen off the wagon.
Like, I think there's some pretty clear red flags here.
But even in college, yeah. I had the original drinking buddy on Daniel Barracat, one of my best friends from college. He and I were the precipice of this podcast like 10 years ago. We're like, we should get drunk and do a podcast called Drinking Buddies. So I had him on the show, and we talked about how his now wife, but girlfriend at the time, would invite me to their house parties because they knew I'd run around and be doing shots with everybody. Like, I'd be the hype man.
Yeah.
So there'd be 10 people there. I'd get everyone to do 2 shots, but I'm doing a shot with them. So now everyone's done 2, but I've done 20.
Yeah.
And then they would just walk me downstairs to the guest room, close the door, turn on the TV, and put my bottle next to the bed. And I would just pass out. So it was clear indications I had a huge problem then.
Right.
But fast forward, yeah, man, like I would get up in the morning and I'd have to do shots in order to stop shaking and throwing up to get in my car to drive to work.
Wow. Okay.
So like that's
like ex-cop fucking.
That's what you're talking about when you're like, it was like, and even before that in college, it was exhausting to like keep up with, like, trying to stay in front of getting sick, trying to stay in front of the hangover. Like, it became a job. Yeah.
Well, and it was also, again, not being raised around alcohol. I didn't like growing up. Like when I was like 12 or 13, I would like I've always loved Ohio State football. Like to this day, I'm wrecked for a day if they lose. Like it's a problem.
That's how my family is.
Big
Everyone
time.
in my family went to Kent State, but they root for Ohio State.
It's a problem. So, but growing up, these are the guys who were my fucking idols.
Yeah.
I loved them. And then you would see it's the Midwest in November and we're playing Michigan and there's kids there that are like basically naked, just like fucking with their shirts their chest painted and swinging their, and I'm like, these kids are crazy. And then looking back, it's like, they're hammered. Like, they are gone. And it's like, yeah, then because after you've been fucked up, you're like, oh, I don't feel anything. Yeah. Like I'm not cold.
It's so weird that you grew up in you were sheltered to the point where it's like, man, those guys really like the team.
They love football. It's like those guys don't know what planet they're on. They're rooting for Michigan right now. They have no idea what's going on.
So how did the fight night thing happen in college?
Dude, fight nights were great.
So
loved fight night.
You sent me a kind of an extensive list about fight night.
Yeah, baby.
And I just wrote down fight night in college. So you're not drinking at this time.
No, not really.
So this isn't like a drunken, we're all going to get hammered and kind of wrestle.
No. So this was a annual event where we had fight a big fight. We'd have like, if it was just all the guys, we would just like fuck around sometimes and just, but
gloves, no gloves.
No, it depended. Everybody made every fight. Everybody made their own rules.
Okay.
Every fight was individual. But one night a year.
This is what happens when you take alcohol out of universities. Yeah. People are going to find a way to have fun.
Yeah. And violence. Like you don't need it.
Public service announcement for alcohol in schools.
Absolutely.
That's not true though, because we used to get drunk and fucking wrestle each other.
Of course, yeah, that's a little bit more fun and a little gay. What's gonna happen?
A little gay.
No, so we got. It was one night a year. There was a big second to last week of school. There was like a big party the weekend before like finals. Like that was the big block party. And so every night there would be a big party over in one section of the school. And so
now, are these sanctioned by the school?
Fight night or the big party?
No, the big party.
Big party was sanctioned by the school.
Okay.
Fight night, totally not.
Yeah,
they were not into that.
So is it
about liability or
is it just like a mixer? Like everyone's drinking sodas and hanging out, or
the party?
Yeah.
The official thing, yes.
Okay.
Were people getting fucked up in their apartments and then going to the thing? You betcha.
Okay. I was going to say, because it doesn't matter how sheltered or religious or whatever the school is, there are going to be people there getting fucked up.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, no, the funny thing is I was all full. People do whatever. You do whatever you want to do. I don't care. Yeah. But the thing that did not frustrate me, but it was kind of like, are you serious? Where people would get annoyed that they would be like, can you believe we can't fucking drink here? I'm like, yeah, dude, they've advertised that from the first day. Yeah. Like they didn't like spring this on you after you signed a contract. Like it says God every 20 feet. Like we're not like, what are you talking about, dude? Of course you're not going to be able to get fucked up and get a blowjob. Like, what are you doing, dude? It's not that. It always just kind of bothered me of just like, yeah, of course we can. What are you talking about, dude?
It is bananas that because I'm the same way, where it's like, yeah, do what you want to do, but you're being kind of fucking
if you're
annoying
here,
about this, yeah.
Then kind of do if you want to go get fucked up. I always advocated for a dry campus because I get that. If you want to have like a safe space for people to not have to deal with that, or if you have
the peer pressure,
sure.
Yeah.
But if you want to go to, especially if you're 21, especially if it's not breaking the law, you want to go to B-dubs, have a couple beers, watch the game. All for it. That was my thing, but that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
So every year they would have a big block party, and so that was like, okay, the attention of everybody on campus is over there. Let's go over to someplace else and have fight night. That was the big thing. So it was under like a lamppost.
Number one rule: we don't talk about fight night.
Absolutely, but I'm about to for 5 minutes. So it was you would call people out. Like in the weeks leading up.
Oh yeah.
You would call people.
I've done roast battles.
I'm fighting you, and let's go. And so the biggest one, the funnest one, was my friend Amarell, who is this tall and like an art major and a woman.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
and she just we were at dinner one night and we were just talking about fight night. And it was in a couple weeks, and she's like, "Hey Matt, I'm gonna fight you." And I was like, fuck, because that's a no-win situation. Because I can't be like, no, but you also can't be like, yeah, I'm gonna beat this lady. You know what I mean?
Let's go.
I've been waiting this my whole life. So I said yes. I said yes that I would do this. But then I kind of made the decision. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to hit her.
Yeah, just let her beat you up.
Yeah, I'm just going to all defense, all of that. It's just going to be a fun thing.
Maybe throwing a headbutt or something.
Of course. And so our friend Casey, who has since lost a lot of weight and looks great, but at the time, pretty big guy. He was always the referee to make sure, because you needed the biggest, especially between dudes.
Yeah.
Even if you're like, hey, this is all fun, you hit somebody, and then it's like, then
the
it
adrenaline
turns to real fighting real quick.
Trust me, I know. That's how I got that.
That's right.
Wrestling. We were just wrestling around, and the next thing I know, I'm pulling a knife out, carving my face.
Yeah.
I'll fucking kill you.
Just like, Jesus, dude, are they did you just read for 300? Like, what are you doing, Brennan? So she calls me out.
Yeah.
I agree that we're going to do it. So night comes, we get there, everybody makes their own rules for every fight. So we said that like everything was cool, just no shots to my groin and no shots to the face. That was all that we said that we couldn't do. So no shots to the groin, no shots to the face. Go out there, everybody's circled up, bang. I'm kind of just standing there, just like, okay, what's going to happen? Within 5 seconds, she just wham, right in my jaw, right in my jaw, just out of nowhere. And it was one of those where like I didn't almost fall over because like I got concussed. It was just out of like, what the hell?
Yeah,
just
you
happened.
said no face.
Yeah, like clear. They're literally 2 rules. Did
you call her out?
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck, dude? And then she would just like she doesn't know how to fight. She's just like swinging, and so I'm just like doing blocking everything. And then after about 30 seconds, I'm just like, I'm over this.
Which is a long time in a fight.
Yes, dude. Hold on.
Let me get 30 seconds is a long time on stage. When you're in physical hand-to-hand combat, it's forever.
Yeah, that's what. And then you watch like these war movies, and you're like, how are these guys even alive?
Yeah.
Like, how are they not? Whatever. That's another thing. So after about 30 seconds, she's just swinging. I'm blocking things. I'm just like, all right, I'm over this. And so I literally because again, she's 5'0", and so I literally just grab her around the waist, put her over my shoulder, and say, "This is over." And then I body slam. No, I don't body.
Then wham!
No, then I literally just like took her and like laid her on the ground.
Bottom.
And it was basically just like I put her up here and I was like, just know that I could fuck you up right now if I wanted to, and just laid her on there. I was like, this is over. But that was really fun. That was the one fight that I had. And then later on that night, my friend Jacob fought my friend Mikey, and Jacob is like he's a white guy that loves karate. You know any of these guys?
Yeah.
And so he kind of did karate off and on, taekwondo.
Karate.
Assalamu alaikum. I don't know. Whatever culture. Namaste. Exactly. And so he's fighting my friend Mikey. And
is he like fighting? Like
they're like fighting. Yeah. But like out of nowhere, he gets real close to him.
Like what?
And then he just goes wham, just like hits like fucking full on
headbutt,
throws a head at him, and like Mikey just like immediately like fell down.
Yeah,
because it's just like, what the hell,
it's 8
dude?
pounds of
just, that was probably the craziest moment.
Like taking an 8-pound dumbbell and smashing someone in the face with it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the hardest.
Yep.
This and your elbow are like the hardest parts of your body. It was insane. I think he had to have gotten a concussion. Had to have. He kind of stayed down, and then like they broke that up. And then the other memorable one from that night was my friend Colin. Who did he fight? I think he fought Micah. Whoever. Micah got him with like a kick to like the
right
rib,
to the liver,
and he was just and Colin, fucking white, like skinny white kid, but from Detroit, was maybe in a gang, maybe type of thing. Yeah. Like he was a tough kid, so he got hit, but he was like, he kept going.
Doesn't have an off switch. He's like, I guess I'm gonna
keeps going.
I guess I'm gonna swing hurt now.
Yeah. Come like 2 weeks later, we're like, where the fuck is Colin at?
You haven't seen Colin for 2 weeks.
Haven't seen Colin in 2 weeks. He comes back to dinner one night, and we're like, where the fuck have you been? He's like, I was in the hospital. I was like, what are you talking about, dude? He's like, yeah, fight night? I was like, yeah. He's like, I lacerated my spleen.
And he didn't tell anybody.
Kid doesn't have medical insurance, don't know how we paid for it. Literally just spent a week straight in the hospital pissing Kool-Aid. Just fucking blood all over. And it was one of those things where he told me that it was like there was 3 grades to a laceration, and the first 2 they can't really do anything about. Like they're not going to go in and operate on it. It's not worth it. And so he had the second one. So it was really bad.
But it's not bad enough.
It's not bad enough to cut him open and fix it. So he just literally had to sit in a hospital bed for like a week and didn't tell anybody. And we're like, dude.
Wow.
I don't even know where I thought you were. Like,
I'm no bitch.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell anybody.
Exactly. And so that was nuts.
That's insane. And all this was just because
we're fucking, just because. Just cuz.
Just cuz.
Why not, dude? Just having a good time. Oh, yeah, and then I broke my friend Jordan's ribs.
How did that happen?
That was later. That was post-college. That's when we were drinking.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a drunk.
So
this is a drinking one. My friend John used to have these great house parties.
This is still in Ohio?
Yes, this is in Ohio. This is after I graduated. I'm living in Columbus now.
Yeah.
John was one of those guys, super personable, but also had a lot of different groups of friends.
Yeah.
Like he had his work friends, but then he was a cycler, so he had those people. Then he played pickup soccer, so he had those friends. And he had like 17 different groups of friends. So everybody that would come to he would have like 200 people that would come to this party.
And they're all of different.
And it was a bunch of different things. It was really fun. Like you got to see your friends, but then you got to meet some other cool people, some creative people. It was really fun. And then just out of nowhere, like we just decided to have a fight night in the back.
We're bringing it back.
Yeah, dude. After you have enough PBRs, you're like, well, what are we going to do next? This is the next logical step. Yeah. And so my friend Jordan is fucked up and I'm not as much. And he's like, we should fight. And I was like, absolutely. Where you're just like, I have such a tactical advantage right now. I'm just going to fuck him up.
I see that all the time now being sober because I live on 52nd and 2nd and there's a lot of bars around me. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of times where I'll like walk over to CVS or walk to the smoke shop to get my cigarettes. And as I'm walking, like there's guys like outside of the bar like yelling at each other and stuff. Yeah. Or they'll turn to me and be like, what the fuck you looking at? And I'm always like, I could probably
end your life, probably
destroy you right now.
Absolutely.
Because I'm completely sober. I still work out a lot. I could be like, whoop.
Yeah.
Bop, bop.
Maybe I'm not a fighter, but I know kind of what to do. Yeah, you have no idea where you're at.
You're rooting for Michigan. I nailed it.
You beat me to it. We were racing to
Fucking
that. I'm glad that you were there. So we go out in the backyard, and that was just, I think I definitely got him with a kick, but then I think I also like picked him up and like threw him down.
Oh, did you?
Like really, and then he was like, "Oh, I'm done." But again, he's super fucked up. He doesn't really know. He finds out wakes up and it's just like, "Oh, I can't breathe. I can't breathe, and I can't lay down on my right side." So like I think his ribs didn't heal for months. But yeah,
and a cracked rib sucks.
Yeah,
because you take a deep breath and you're like, ugh.
And it's not like it's all of them. It's just like two. So they're not going to do anything again.
No, you just sit.
You just kind of like, okay, well, because you can't cast your abdomen like that. So that was.
They wrap it and send you on your way.
Yeah, it's like having a broken pinky toe. It's just like, well, why are you
broken?
You're wasting our time.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's
get out.
Yeah. What are you doing?
I wanted to. We got a few minutes left. I wanted to ask you about the stole the iPod. What was that about?
So that was early.
Yeah,
that was
seventh grade.
That was 7th grade, dude. So I played, if you can believe it, I played football. For those of you just listening, I don't know if this is visual as well.
But
if you're listening, I am 5'8" and barely $140. Like I don't weigh shit.
I also played football. If you're listening, 6'1", 230
That's
pounds.
what someone who plays football should look like, and I look like their younger brother who blogs about how football is part of the patriarchy. Like that's my vibe. So I played football.
That is your vibe.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely. Dude.
I really like The Ringer, and Bill Simmons has hired like a lot of these really young like reporters, and I've made the mistake of looking some of them up, and because I really like their content and stuff.
Sure.
But they're, football analysts, and I'll look some of them up. I'm like, oh, you're 23, like 5'7", like 120 pounds.
Football's being taken over by fucking nerds, dude.
I was like, you've never played. You just love watching it.
Yeah,
which
and
I can respect, but then don't tell me about like what you're supposed to do in concussion protocol.
Absolutely. Looking at you, Mike McDaniel.
Ben Solak.
You fucking loot. Whatever. So yeah, played football in 7th, 8th, 9th grade. Offensive line.
Yeah, you did.
Left guard, dude.
Yeah.
Left guard. Strong side.
I played left guard in high school.
Hell yeah, dude. Offensive lineman, 7th and 8th grade. Special teams, defensive end in freshman year.
Pass rusher.
Yeah. Also not first. Like I was a change of pace guy. Yeah. I was small and kind of quick.
Yeah.
Got one sack against St. X.
Fuck yeah,
highlight of my life, dude.
Yeah.
Highlight of my life, dude.
Did you do a dance?
No, I fucked up. I missed my assignment. Like I went through the B gap. I was supposed to go outside.
Contain.
Yeah. And like somebody else came from this way, and literally the quarterback just like rolled to try to like get away, and literally ran right into. I didn't do anything, and but my friends were like, I was,
get up and you're like, yeah,
I didn't even do that. I was just so shocked that it happened. I was like, oh my, I don't even know what to do. People were like, my friends were like fuck yeah, dude, let's go. I'm like, this is the craziest moment in my life. So I did. So saw. goddamn.
7th grade.
7th grade. Football is winter sport, or fall winter sport.
Yeah.
Spring, I have gym class, and I had a different. We use the same locker room as we did for football. And so I was like, I wonder because I still knew it's a high school or a junior high. They're not like getting new locks all the time. So I was like, I still know the combination of my gym locker. Or my football locker.
Yeah.
Let's go check in. Like, let's just see what's in there. I open it up, and there's just a green iPod Nano in there with like wrapped with headphones, everything. Like a good, fucking
Just sitting there.
For the kids who don't remember.
Oh yeah.
A color you wanted, like a color with dude, it was
the Nano
crisp.
Yeah.
It was like a
Could roll with
was a 4 gig. Oh, it had the click when you.
Yeah.
It was delicious. And so I took it. I saw it, and in the moment, this makes no sense at all.
This is really weird because of your background.
Get ready for this. In the moment, I distinctly remember opening that up, seeing that iPod, and then having the thought, oh, God wanted me to find this.
What?
100%. I swear to you. And it's like, this is how cults start. This is absolutely where it's just like, I have a vision that this is what it's supposed to be, and now there's gold plates. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it starts. And so I took it.
It's interesting you say that because it's very easy because I'm fairly religious, especially in our circles. We travel in with comedy and stuff. Like I've got scripture tattooed all over me. I always think that there was something bigger than me working. That's why I survived my alcohol poisoning when I almost died.
Oh, damn. Let's talk about that later.
Hospital.
I'm very interested in that, actually.
But I remember coming out of it, and like jokingly, I'd say to people, people would be like, "Oh, be safe," and I'm like, "Hey, if God wanted me dead, I'd already be dead." Like there were plenty of opportunities.
Sure.
But it's interesting you say that because that's like an egomaniac way of thinking. Like God spared me so I could bring my comedy to the masses.
Absolutely.
You're exactly right. That is how cults start.
It's just one guy who's just like, oh, yeah, of course, I've got it.
Of course. That's why I survived. Not because of the medical attention or because my friend was there. It's because God wants me to provide comedy for the masses.
Absolutely. And have an iPod Nano. When I already had an iPod.
You had the old one, though.
Yeah, the old, And so I take it, right? But then I get back to my homeroom. I get back to my the classroom. I take it all the way home on the bus. I listen to it. He has some songs on there that I would never be allowed to have because my parents still had like it was still when you had to buy songs off of iTunes, and they would
You had to buy the song on iTunes, plug in the iPod, and then load it up,
download it to your iPod. That was it was nuts. Everything cost 99 cents. And so he had songs on there that I was never allowed to have, like fucking like Fergalicious by Fergie, and it was crazy. So I was listening to that on the way home. I was feeling really good, and then I got home, and then I felt really bad.
Then it
like immediately once I got home, I felt like ashamed. Like I put it on an iHome to charge, and I just like covered it up because like I didn't want my mom to see it.
Disgusting.
Because she buys you
knows,
everything.
yeah.
She'd be like, "Where the fuck? Whose is that? Where did you get that from?"
Borrowed it from a friend.
Yeah, and so I feel really really bad. And then I go back to school the next day, and the next day I just hear through the chitter chatter that somebody stole Dan Helton's iPod, and I'm like, oh, who could that be? And it's me. Now Dan Helton, what did you say you were?
6'1", 230.
6'1", 230. Now imagine you were in 8th grade
at 6'1", 230
and had a tattoo, and your dad beat you. That was Dan Helton.
Oh, you stole the wrong.
But I had no idea.
It's like that scene in Gone in 60 Seconds. Do you know why someone would leave the keys in a car in that neighborhood? Because no one's dumb enough to steal it.
Dude, I'm watching The Sopranos for the first time right now, and there was just an episode where like a guy like saw Tony kill somebody, but he didn't know it was Tony, and so he like reports on it, and then like his wife finds out that the guy that was dead was associated with The Sopranos, and they're like, holy fuck, and that's what I thought. I was like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
This was great. I lived 12 awesome years, but I'm done. So I luckily had it with me, and so I like snuck out. Like I was like, hey, can I go to the bathroom? And I
snuck
go out,
into the locker room,
put it back, and then because he was like, people were like, Dan Helton is gonna like he punched a locker. Like he like straight out of a sitcom, dented a locker with his fist because he was so pissed that his iPod got stolen. And then I go back, and I can't even remember how it happened, but somebody in my gym class must have like said that they saw some people do it, because I get called down to the office, and there was like 2 other kids sitting in there, and he brings us into the office. The assistant principal, Mr. Weckstein. Fucking hate that guy.
Fuck you.
Yeah, dude. I'm just kidding. No, I'm totally kidding. But this guy did suck. I hated that guy. He was one of those where it's like, he was just like power, but like you're a 7th grade vice principal. So
you see it all the time.
Cool it.
It's like they control that little world, and that's what they control.
Yeah.
And that's
and so he brings me in, and again, I feel super bad. And I like, as soon as he brings me in, he was like, "Did you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, because I had to come clean immediately because it was just tearing me up. And he's like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did it." He's like, "Oh, I was convinced it was the other kid." And so I'm like,
"You son of a
dude.
bitch."
Because like the other guy, Michael, who went in before me, I was like, okay, so I could have just said, "No, what are you talking about? I didn't do it," and he would have gotten busted.
Michael,
so I got busted with that, and so I go back to my homeroom or back to my history class. I'm sitting there, and I know that I'm fucked, especially with my parents, like, because they religious rules,
they didn't raise a
all
thief,
10 commandment, all of that, and so
Jesus was crucified next to 2 thieves.
Yeah, exactly, dude. But they still, I think one of them made it, the other one didn't. Whatever. So I decided I'm going to tell my mom when I get home. Immediately, just because they're gonna call, and they're gonna be like, "Hey, Matthew fucked up at school."
Hopefully, you can beat the call.
Yeah, exactly. So I go because that's what you want. You want to look. I was like, okay, I did this. I'm gonna own it.
Doing the right thing,
and hopefully,
it's all about perception.
Exactly. I'm making a plea deal. That's what I'm with my
perception
parents.
And timing.
Exactly. And so I go home. I tell her immediately. Literally an hour later, I get the call. And I hear her. And this is why that guy's such a fucking loser. Mr. Weckstein, I hate him. Because he calls, he's like, "Well, Mrs. Bowman, are you aware of what Matthew did at school today?" And my mom was like, "Yeah, he already told me, we've had a conversation." And I could hear him like on speakerphone be like, "Oh," like he was disappointed. Like he wanted to fuck me over. I'm like, "You suck, dude. I'm going to steal your iPod." So I couldn't leave the house I couldn't leave our yard for a month.
Wow.
We went to church all the time. Couldn't do anything fun at church. Couldn't go to my own Sunday school class. Had to go to my fucking parents' Sunday school class, which is a snooze fest. Couldn't go to youth group. Had to sit in normal service with them. I didn't have to hold my dad's hand, but I had to be within arm's length of him at church for a month. I had to read a fucking book about like theft and being righteous or whatever, about going to heaven.
What happened with Dan?
Oh, I don't think he ever saw me. Like, it never came...
Because he got his back,
he gave it back.
They just decided not to bring it up to him?
That would be a little fucked up if the vice principal was like...
Fight night is back!
7th grade edition. "Hey, Dan, just so you know, it was this kid, and we're gonna
all turn our backs for about 15 minutes.
Put you guys in a room, and that's it." No, so and then I got I think I had to do, like, a Saturday school. So I had to come in on, like, 2 Saturday mornings in a row for, like, 4 hours to do that. I had to read a book. And then I had to write a paper about it. About stealing, and it had to be like 1,000 words or something. It was probably the most I've ever gotten in trouble.
That's
in
crazy.
My whole life.
In 7th grade.
And I don't think I've probably stolen some stuff since then, but nothing major like that. But yeah.
Well, we've got a couple minutes left. I wanted to ask you about the last story I wanted to ask you about was the epically getting fucked up at the birthday and then trying to take a city bike.
Oh, at Ryder's house? Dude, that was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I figured it was.
That was one of those where you don't realize how fucked up you're getting. And then...
So what happened? You just go for a party and you're like...
So I don't have... This is going to sound like what an alcoholic would say, but I legitimately do not have a drinking problem. Like, I have the ability to have one beer.
Trust me, I believe you.
Yeah, I have the ability...
The most trouble you've ever gotten in was in 7th grade. 10 years before you even touched alcohol.
Dude,
I believe you.
My life is so fucking sheltered, dude. It's so boring sometimes. But yeah, so we just go to the party. Me and Graham Cooper. Shouts to Graham.
Shout out Graham.
And I just show up. I just start having a couple beers. I hadn't had a lot to eat, so I had like a couple PBRs that I brought. There was some food there. Had some of that. Then people bring around just like some little chocolates. And they're like, "You want one?" I was like, "Sure." And I take like a couple of them, and I was like, "Oh, what was that, by the way?" And it's like, "Oh, those were shrooms." And I was like, "Oh, great, this is gonna be fun." But shrooms got like a half hour to an hour, sometimes 90-minute like timer on it. Yeah. So then I just kind of keep drinking, do some shots, whatever, and I don't even realize how fucked up I am. I didn't find out till like the next morning or a couple days later, like how fucked up I was. because I kind of get to the point where I'm still like checking the time. Because it's
so you're
also,
aware of the shroom situation.
Yes, aware of that. I didn't get nobody like spiked it or anything like that. But so
no, but I'm saying you keep checking your phone because you're like, all right, I've got to
get home at some. Well, and I also like it's out in like Bushwick, and it's almost 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't want to like It was one of those where like you can't take a train because it doesn't make sense.
It's too late.
It's too late, but it's also like navigationally, like I could either like ride a bike home and it would take 10 minutes, or I could take a train and it would take 45. It's like one of those where it doesn't really work. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to try to I'm gonna take a city bike home because I'm not gonna walk home from Bushwick to Bed-Stuy at 2:30 in the morning, super fucked up. Like I look like me. Yeah.
You're gonna get robbed.
Get robbed for sure. And so I just decided to leave probably 1:30, 2:00 in the morning. And it was one of those where Google Maps is such a stupid bitch sometimes, especially in the city where it just, you'll like start walking in a direction and it was just like, fuck you, you're supposed to go the other way. I was like, well, then you should have told me that. And now I'm also just like really messed up. And so I go outside and I start walking in the wrong direction, and then it spins around, and I have like the city bike app open too because it tells you where the station is. And so I go and I try to figure it out. And then
you're just all fucked up.
Yeah, and then I pass by like 5 people that are just like really looking at, and like again, 2:00 in the morning, like, okay, I gotta just look down. Focus. Here we go. And then there's like 2 electric city bikes, which is like the new ones, like the gray ones that go like 20 miles an hour. And it was one of those where like you get it out and you have to scan it, but it doesn't scan. Like it didn't scan for like
a picture,
3 or like it didn't work for like 3 or 4 times. And that's like the most vulnerable because you're focusing on this. Anybody can come up from behind you. So I'm like checking around. Is anybody coming? And so I finally was able to get it. Dude, I felt like a goddamn time traveler. Like, you know, like when in Star Wars, when they fucking when they go to light speed, whoom! Like I could have been in Boston by the time I was done. Like I had no idea what happened. Thank God I somehow... I docked it somehow.
Punch it, Chewie.
Let's go. It's like the reverse power coupling or whatever. I somehow luckily was able to dock it. Had the presence of mind to be able to dock it.
Because that's $1,000 they'll charge you.
I think it was like $1,500. Yeah. I think Nikhil, like my friend Nikhil, I don't know if you know him. He got they kicked him off. He's not allowed to use the City Bike app anymore, and it cost him $1,500.
Jesus.
Yeah. So I'm super glad that I was able to do that.
There are some people when I go downtown to work, sometimes I'll bike, or like coworkers will bike, and they'll go to dock their bike because it's near Union Square, and like people will come and be like, "No, man, I dock the bikes here. Like I'll dock it," and they're like, "The fuck you will."
No, you will not. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Because they just want to take the bike and then steal it.
Yeah. So I mean, and then you got to make sure you got to dock it, see the green light,
make sure it locks,
see the green light, and also make sure you get the notification on your phone. Yeah. Okay, we're good to go. And then I got out of there. But yeah, dude. And then I woke up the next morning. I oddly wasn't that hungover.
The mushrooms.
Yeah. But it was one of those where you feel like you cheated life, where you're like, I got fucked up and I feel great this morning. No consequences.
I've had a couple of those.
Yeah. And so like I go to Mike's, I go to everything, and Ryder was just like, "Hey, you were pretty fucked up last night, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess, but dude, I took a city bike home." He's like, "You did what? You took a city bike home?" He's like, "Yeah, one of the electric ones." He's like, "You should be dead, dude." Because that's like driving a
That's driving a motorcycle.
That's driving a motorcycle, like a vehicle. Like if a cop saw me, I was definitely breaking the law.
Oh yeah,
like 100%.
Well, you get a DUI on a regular bike,
absolutely.
Let alone
yeah. But it was still one of those where like I still had. You ever been?
Yes.
I'm not condoning this behavior at all. But do you ever get where you're fucked up, but because you know you're fucked up and you have to drive, you're like, okay, well, I'm just gonna really follow the law.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
10 and 2, full stop, look left, look right. There we go. Like I'm driving like a fucking grandma, just trying to do. And dude,
that's awesome.
It was really fun.
Well, thank you again for coming on,
thank you so much, man.
Plug everything one more time into the camera.
Yeah, Matt Bowman Comedy on Instagram, Matt Bowman Comedy on TikTok, Matt Bowman Comedy on YouTube. I got shows at the Grizzly Pear, Three Monkeys All the Time. My podcast, Matt Bowman Is Bothered, is out wherever you listen to podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, and fucking listen to this podcast. It's great.
I'll put it in the show notes. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening at Brennan T. Comedy on all social media. One Man Show is still on for January, so check that out. And BrennanTComedy.com for all the upcoming dates. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.
Dude, that was fun.
Yeah, man. I love it.